You by JustNForm.com. If you're tired of being censored, tired of having your data stolen and sold, go to JustNForm.com, a social media site where all voices are welcome.
What is going on, everybody? Thank you all so much for tuning into this live stream segment of Mi Casa es Su Casa, and I am, of course, as always, your humble host, Niko House. Man, this week, Jimmy's been on vacation, and for some reason, people just won't let up. But before we get into that, before we get into the establishment left, or the establishment media left, and the new love affair with Jimmy Dore, I want to urge you all to follow us and subscribe on Roku. We are the very first independent news network to appear on Roku. Yeah, I said it. The very first. Número uno. Un primero. We are the first. Why? Well, I can't really go into all that, but we're independent. That means we are totally funded by you. We're funded by your voice, which means we are beholden to no one but you. And we appreciate that. So your views count, your subscriptions count. And like I said before I started this video, for those of you who watching this live, I had a video taken down just because I put George Soros' name in it. Like, not demonetized, taken down. And they made sure to let me know that it was taken down around the world. So, like I said, people, follow us and subscribe on Roku. Our videos will be going up there as well. Plus, starting next week, I believe it's going to be next week. Can't tell you why I have to do it next week, but you'll know in a few. We'll start doing Roku exclusives, and those are going to be pretty dope. I'm excited about them. So, also, many of you I know live in California. Some of you I know may even live in Southern California. Even more of you probably live in LA. And so I would encourage you all to come out to my meet and greet. I will be in LA at the Bernie Sanders coffee shop on October the 13th for a meet and greet. Featured also will be Fiorella and Pasta, aka Craig Jardula of the Convo Couch. And there we will be discussing politics, obviously. JustNForm.com, our social media platform, and a few other things. But also, we want to hear what you all have going on in California, and we want to hear your individual stories as activists, because we want to tell your stories. So we're really excited about it. It'll be at 8 p.m. Pacific on October the 13th in Los Angeles at the Bernie Sanders coffee shop. So make sure that you meet us there. I can't wait to see you all. And if you are on Facebook, you can look up the event. I share it on my page. You can check it out there and actually put if you're going to go, so we can kind of figure out what the number is going to be. Yeah. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm sure you all heard about the discussion between Jimmy Dore, Francesca, Fioretini, maybe, and Shane Bauer. Jimmy, in true Jimmy fashion, wrote a tweet that said, if you've never seen an actual Al-Qaeda apologist, here you go. And he's sick and tired of people opposing illegal wars. That was in response to Joey Ayoub. And he said, because Joey Ayoub said that if you respect real journalists reporting on Syria, why are you tweeting Dore? Or why are you retweeting Dore? And do you know who that Assadist, do you know who that Assadist he retweeted is? So that's why Jimmy Dore responded with, if you've never seen an actual Al-Qaeda apologist, here you go. And he's sick and tired of people opposing illegal wars. Yeah, sounds about right. 100% agree with Jimmy right there. So Shane Bauer decided to chime in because he's not really important. He writes for Mother Jones, but nobody really knows who he is. So he's one of those people with like 75,000 followers, but you don't know how he got 75,000 followers because nobody actually knows like what he does or whose his existence is important to. But that's neither here nor there. It's neither here nor there. But Shane Bauer responded with, an Arab journalist criticizes support for Bashar al-Assad and he gets called an al-Qaeda apologist by a leftist white dude who knows nothing about Syria. What does Arab have to do with that? I don't even know where Arab came from. I guess because there are, obviously, most Syrians are Arab, so maybe that's why. But you could literally take out the Arab and the leftist white dude, which I don't really get. Is that an insult? I'm like, this identity politics, like just lobbying attacks at anybody who disagrees with you, that the neoliberal establishment has been trying to do a lot of recently. They did it a lot yesterday with when Bernie Sanders got the got Bezos to move on to $15 an hour. Oh man! Speaking of which, I want to do a video covering this dispute that I had yesterday. It's gonna be funny. But this man said Jimmy's a leftist white dude who knows nothing about Syria. Apparently, knows enough. Probably more than he does, but whatever. He says, like the imperialists they oppose, people like Jimmy use the Middle East as a prop to fulfill their view of the world. What does that even mean? Like the imperialists they oppose, people like Jimmy just use the Middle East as a prop to fulfill their view of the world. Bruh. Did he just use all of those characters, waste all of that finger power, typing them out? You get 280 now. 140 was exhausting enough. 280, good God, man. I'd have an asthma attack. Spending all that time typing out all that stuff and not saying a goddamn thing. Didn't say shit. Not at all whatsoever. But let's continue. Francesca Fioretini, who used to be part of a program called News Broke, which is a part of Al Jazeera. Now, Al Jazeera is known for doing some great coverage on the Israel-Palestine conflict, but, caveat, surprise, surprise, Al Jazeera, when it comes to reporting the Syria conflict, is horrible. Now, Al Jazeera is also horrible when it comes to reporting fairly on Iran. Now, I wonder if this has anything to do with it. Now, Al Jazeera is notably funded by Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia really likes having control of their oil and pretty much all of the oil supply around the world. They really enjoy that. And so much so that I think they would find it really problematic that that a country like, I don't know, maybe Syria, decided that it wanted to nationalize its oil supply. Now think about it. Iran, coincidentally enough, also wants to nationalize its oil supply as well. Yeah, you know, now I'm thinking about it. Saudi Arabia seems to have a problem with every country that tries to nationalize its oil supply. And Al Jazeera is funded by them. But, that's just interesting. I don't know. Maybe it's coincidence. But also a fun fact about Saudi Arabia. Do you find it weird that they're like super hyper right-wing, authoritarian, totalitarian, fearitarian, cut off your headitarian, wrap your whole woman up in blackitarian, royal family ruleditarian, all those Itarians that mean bad things, and they're very theocratic. Now, theocracy means that their government is ruled by religion. It's weird. Because it seems like every religion, every religious government, it's authoritarian. I'm sure that's a coincidence too, though. But also, it seems that every country that tries to become secular, weirdly enough, as they liberate themselves from religion or the oppression of religion, free themselves, become more spiritual. But if they relieve themselves from the oppression of religion and religious governments, as they themselves become free from the money of the imperialists and the resources of the imperialists, and they said, we're going to just do our own thing. Appreciate it, guys, but no thank you. Every time a country becomes secular, they, for some reason, decide, what we should also do? Nationalize our oil. And when those two things happen, Saudi Arabia ends up getting really upset, and we go to war with the country. We try to undermine the country. And I'm not gonna lie, if Shane Bauer was imprisoned in Iran, it is likely because he was in Iran spreading propaganda and lies. That's just judging off of this tweet. First of all, Shane Bauer writes for Mother Jones, and mind you, before maybe 2 years ago, some probably were awake a little bit, who are older than I, were probably awake to that particular situation for quite some time. But Iran has a problem with journalists who lie about their country. And they have a right to feel that way, considering in 1953, the United States overthrew their government via propaganda, via regime change, the same classic way we did, because Mossadegh, their first democratically elected president, said, hey, can we be secular and can we nationalize our oil? And they were like, no, you can't. He's a terrorist. Get him out. Then we ended up trying to throw people in that were authoritarian along the way, messed up their country even more, but the entire time we made it seem like it was their fault. So yeah. If Shane Bauer is saying things like this, and I'm not surprised at all whatsoever that he was thrown in jail. Actually, I would expect it. That's what happens when you go to other countries and lie about what's going on there for no reason other than your personal political agenda, your personal biases, or your personal career in media. So, with that being said, Francesca Fioretini, who worked for Al Jazeera, who's funded by Saudi Arabia, which is why I gave you all that background information in case you were new to this story, said to Shane, thank you and others for naming this. The pathology on the left of painting the Middle East with the same brush to stick it to an imaginary democratic media Illuminati is utterly delusional and disheartening. I say this as someone who wants to see Dore and others do better. What? The pathology of the left of painting the media of the Middle East with the same brush. We don't paint the Middle East with the same brush. In fact, matter of fact, we absolutely don't paint the Middle East with the same brush because I don't trust Saudi Arabia, and y'all never really call Saudi Arabia out like those Al Jazeeras and the Mother Jones of the world. Where if they have ever, I've never seen it. I know Francesca Fioretini does it because she works for Al Jazeera. So we don't paint Israel with the same brush. But we don't paint what are you talking about? That's a lie. That is an utter and complete lie. But if we're going to be truthful about two things, if you are going to look at the situation in the Middle East and you're doing so without looking through the U.S.-centric lens that you must look at it through to understand why things are the way they are there, then you are ignorant, you are irresponsible, and for you to pretend like you practice journalism and you do so in the Middle East and pretend like you're an authority, then you're laughable. You're not a journalist. You're not. You know how you said Arab journalists? I talked to, and I still need to post that interview up. I was saving it until this Syria conversation kind of reignited, but I talked to multiple Syrians. I interviewed them. The reason they left was not because of Assad. They have no problem with Assad. In fact, both of them said that Assad is the reason that they've been able to avoid regime change and the U.S. taking over the resources of their nation. They had to leave because of us, because we were destroying their nation. And for the second truth is media Illuminati, imaginary Democratic and media Illuminati regarding the Middle East. Did the Iraq War not happen? Did the war in Afghanistan not happen? Hell, did the first Iraq War not happen? We lied about why we went over there when it had to do with like Iraq was our, it's kind of crazy that happens a lot. Iraq was our ally. We went over, we fought with them. They said we want our oil back because like they went to go invade Kuwait. And of course, why would you trust the United States? You see how that story plays out. So Saddam Hussein got smart. He was smart in that regard because he pretty much said, screw you guys, I'm getting my oil, I'm getting up out of here. So what we did after, by the way, we gave him anthrax. We gave Saddam Hussein anthrax. If you don't know, anthrax is only an alternative version. It is like is a chemically manipulated version of Agent Orange. However, they cannot call it a chemically manipulated version of Agent Orange because then you would know where anthrax came from. So all those conspiracy theorists out there who said that, conspiracy theorists as in they were telling the truth, but you viewed them as conspiracy theorists who said that anthrax was made by the government and administered to us. Yeah, actually that's true. And that has a lot to do, that and the depleted uranium we were using on them, by the way. So that's actually partially to do why we have to take so many vaccines now. That's part of the reason we have to take so many vaccines. I encourage you to look up the lawsuit that was being done against the Clinton administration because it was going to be a multi-trillion-dollar lawsuit. And coincidentally enough, all those documents somehow exploded in the OKC bombing. It's a big coincidence, but whatever. So, did the media talk about that? Nah, it was always, which they always do, about the person. Right? It's about the person. It's never about the truth. It's if we make them scared enough of Saddam Hussein, if we make them scared enough of Mossadegh, if we make them scared enough of Maurice Bitch, if we make them scared enough of what's, oh my goodness gracious, I don't forgot his name. Rest in peace. Gaddafi. If we make them scared enough of this person, then they won't pay attention to the logic. They won't pay attention to the reasoning. They won't pay attention to the important stuff. Like oil. They used to say it's an oversimplification to say it's just about oil. Man, they were wrong. It was always about oil. I love Eminem's. He had made a song called Mosh, excuse me. And my favorite line in that song was he said, no more blood for oil. We got our own battles to fight on our own soil. No more psychological warfare. And what she is claiming is that the media does not collude to muddy the waters of the narrative of the Middle East. That is incredibly ignorant, which explains why she has to script every single show she does and make sure it's only 5 minutes or else her ignorance will get exposed. Or she's a bought for and paid shill. It's that simple. So Jimmy responded with, I say this as someone who doesn't want to see jihadists, because remember she condescended at Jimmy. He says, I say this as someone who doesn't want to see jihadists take over Syria after the United States and Saudi Arabia decapitate Assad. What in God's fucking name are you talking about? Quit attacking anti-war voices and rooting for war. Opposing a no-fly zone in Syria means you support Russian imperialism, according to Stooge Bauer. Abby Martin for the win. Yeah. You know what's funny about that? Francesca Fioretini and Shane Bauer did not deny that the United States has been funding Al-Qaeda in Syria. They didn't deny that. Did you hear that? I didn't hear that. I didn't read that. I could be reading. I could be wrong. But there's probably a reason that they didn't mention that, and that they did not, because that's what they do, right? I had this happen yesterday. When you bring up facts, undeniable facts, verifiable facts. This isn't a fact that came out of nowhere. If you all recall, because Jimmy is a journalist and he does his research, and he even gets the word from the primary sources. He had one, Tulsi Gabbard, who actually went to Syria, who through her intelligence found out we are actually funding Al-Qaeda. Verifiably came on the show to talk about it. That's a congresswoman who went to Syria, who sat down and talked to Assad, which I am absolutely positive neither Francesca nor Shane Bauer did. Because if we are going to figure out what the hell's going on, and someone does grant you an audience, I figure like the best way to solve problems, especially when there are lives involved, you should take that opportunity. Everybody else was scared to talk to Assad. It's kind of crazy. We'll sit down with Saudi Arabian princes who are known for beheading people, not call them ridiculous, harsh dictators. But Assad, who was literally chilling there with a suit, a tie, a beautiful family, a winning smile. Boy looked like he couldn't harm a fly. I'm not saying he couldn't. I'm just saying, good God, that is not how a dictator usually looks. I know we shouldn't judge a book by its cover, so I did something stupid and I listened to a few of his interviews. Dude does not really know how to sound like a dictator if he's trying to. Like, he says things like, you make all these claims about my country, you haven't actually... I invite people to come and talk to me and walk around here all the time, and nobody wants to do it. Like, there's a reason for that. Now, once again, Francesca Fioretini already has, or not Francesca Fioretini, but she works for a company that has already had a checkered past. Because if you all recall, during the election, this video about Aleppo came out, where these cool reporters, they were at first considered to be citizens of Syria, ended up being these random people who all had brand new cell phones with incredible, impeccable service and upload speeds and HD video. I was impressed. And they were making their last video in Aleppo because the Syrian army and Assad were going to destroy them. Yeah, that was Al Jazeera who broke that story. Guess what? That story was a lie. Those were all reporters. They even had perfect English. Like, absolutely perfect. One was a black dude. I've never met a black Syrian before. I'm sure they exist somewhere in there, but they're not really common. And I'm sure they wouldn't speak perfect English with no accent. So that was Al Jazeera who made that video. So do you think there probably is a correlation between Francesca's ignorance when it comes to Syria and that blatant lie that Al Jazeera tried to sell? I mean, that video got tens of millions, and I think eventually got hundreds of millions of views around the world, trying to demonize what was going on in Syria and blame Assad and the Syrian army. It's funny enough, I never hear them cover what the United States is, who the United States is paying in Syria. So Jimmy jumps in the DMs of Francesca, invites her on the show, and Jimmy does say some things that he got heated, I will say. And he called her a bitch because she wouldn't come on. She just kept condescending at him. I mean, it's not whether about I agree or disagree. It's not about that. It's more about the apology. I mean, if I did agree, she was acting like a condescending bitch. I mean, I wouldn't say it in a DM where it could be reposted. I might call her and tell her directly if I agreed, but I'm not saying that I do. Okay. I'm not saying that she was lying for propagandist purposes. Okay. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that Jimmy was 100% right in his direct messages. I'm just saying that I'm happy he apologized because public perception is important when you're a voice to the movement. And we're going to move on from that and go to this apology where Jimmy, being the class act that he is, said that I have taken a few days to reflect upon both the private and public exchanges I've had with Francesca Fioretini and Shane Bauer on Twitter. Although I never expected my private messages to be put on blast. It's funny that he used that. But he said there was still no excuse for me to talk to someone that way. People who follow me know that I am an unapologetic progressive who constantly challenges neoliberals and their stenographers in the corporate mainstream media in a decidedly impolite way. That is Jimmy's thing. He is a comedian, and his show is called The Aggressive Progressive. That is who he is. But whatever. He said, I will never apologize for challenging what I believe to be uncritical acceptance and promotion of the corporate state's propaganda on Syria, Russia, or any other issue. In this instance, I disagree with Francesca and Shane's position on Syria, and I stand by my position on the substance of the issue. However, I most wholeheartedly apologize for the way I talked about it with them. It was wrong for me to speak to Francesca in such a harsh tone, and I deeply regret it. Sometimes I get extremely passionate about my views, which is what I hope people appreciate about me, which is true, I'm sure. But in this instance, I crossed the line from passionate to nasty and hurtful. Furthermore, just as I know that Abby Martin, Larry King, Chris Hedges, and my friend Lee Camp are not pawns of the Russian government just because they worked for RT, it would be inconsistent and unfair to accuse Francesca of being a pawn of the Qatari government because her employment with Al Jazeera. It would be unfair for Jimmy to do that, which is why I went ahead and did it for him. And wow, I feel that Shane has been unfair to me and accused me of many untrue things. I should not have alleged that he's affiliated with the CIA because I've had no evidence to support that allegation. I watched Brett Kavanaugh interrupt and disrespect Senator Klobuchar the other day. It helped me realize that someone who calls himself a progressive should be more careful, measured, and respectful when interacting with fellow journalists, especially women, no matter the context. In the spirit of reconciliation, I want to apologize to Francesca and take her up on that offer to have coffee when I return to Los Angeles. I also want to apologize to Shane and invite him to a civil debate about war policy, and I hope to have more productive debates with him going forward. Man, that guy is better than I am. He's definitely a class act, right? And you would, and good God, the dude, when you have someone who was, like, to be honest, not in the wrong, because he clearly was not. It's different to see him just he was being sincere in his apology. Now, what that apology says to me before I get into the Shane Bauer response is that Jimmy has, in my opinion, kind of announced, without announcing, that he accepts his role in the progressive movement, that he understands that even though he is a comedian, even though that was primarily his role before, even though his job had really been for a long time to just call it the establishment and not really worry about the consequences, and he could say and do whatever he wanted, however he wanted in the past, he can't do that anymore. Because he is a voice and he accepts that, and he understands that people will hear what he says and almost verbatim repeat it or treat other people like that. And though everybody that could possibly be treated like that from someone who supports Jimmy is not a shill, they could just be misguided. So it's, once again, really important and really telling, in my opinion, that Jimmy, when the opportunity was presented to him, came out on top by simply being a humanist and demonstrating that I accept my role in this movement, and really challenging, in my opinion, both Shane and Francesca by saying, I accept my role in this movement. Now, I am going to give you a chance to prove that if you are part of this movement, if you consider yourself progressive, if you consider yourself an ally, then you will accept your role in this challenge as well to bridge that gap. Now, in true neoliberal fashion, oh my goodness, let me go ahead and find. I'm gonna find it. I just lost it. So, hey, cat. Asher, be quiet. Yeah, that's my cat. Asher. Oh, my God. Hold on. Me and my cat gonna have a discussion real quick. Asher, go to the lay. Go ahead. Jesus. Yeah, I'm back. Look, y'all, my cat loves his daddy. Okay. Oops, move my camera and everything. My cat loves his daddy, and so that's what happens when you spoil him. Asher is a Siamese cat, and he is spoiled rotten. So, yeah, I know. Yeah, my cat sounds like a screaming, crying child, and I am pretty sure that that's intentional. Literally, and I would bring him in here. I'll do that in another video. But he would not leave me alone. He wouldn't. That's why he was screaming, because he's an attention whore, and he likes to have all of my attention. And the only reason, if I was sitting in here quiet, he'd be perfectly fine with it. But because I'm talking to you all, he's like, oh, no, daddy, that's not how this works. If you're here, you need to give me all the attention. So, back to the story. So, Shane Bauer finally responds to Jimmy's apology. What do y'all think he said? What do y'all think he said? He said, glad to see the Young Turks, Jimmy Dore. You see how he did that? You see how he said that? I want you, that wasn't no coincidence. I'm going to tell you why it wasn't no coincidence. Hold on real quick. I'm going to keep on reading. The Young Turks, quote unquote, Jimmy Dore, has retracted his outlandish, dangerous conspiracy theory that I am a CIA operative. He did not call you a CIA operative directly. He was alleging that you were doing the work of the CIA, like whether directly or indirectly, which I would not necessarily disagree with, although Jimmy apologized for it. But he said, and he apologized for his harassment of a female journalist. Do you hear how this is playing out? It is still outrageous that the Young Turks give him a platform. And then he continues, notably, Jimmy did not apologize to the Arab journalist he called an Al-Qaeda apologist. You know what words stand out to me? The Young Turks, Jimmy Dore. Why? No, trust me when I say it should probably be Jimmy Dore's Young Turks, because he clearly makes the Young Turks at this point. If they dared to even consider, to even think about ever firing him, it would be the end of... They have 10,000 or something like that members at this point, which is like nothing when you have 3 million subscribers. Jimmy by himself, last time I checked, almost has 4,000 patrons, varying from anywhere from $1 to $100 a month in donations. And you think that they're going to give up their most popular show for Shane Bauer when we didn't even know who Shane Bauer was until Jimmy mentioned your name because you couldn't help but respond to make yourself relevant. But I digress. So he says, Young Turk's Jimmy Dore. Outlandish conspiracy theories. These are words that stand out. Harassment of a female journalist. The Young Turks giving him a platform. Arab journalist. Bruh. Listen, y'all know me. I'm the first to acknowledge racism. I am the first to acknowledge sexism. I am the first to acknowledge the realities and the effects of the patriarchy. I am the first every single time. But at the same time, I'm going to be the first to call bullshit when it is indeed bullshit. This doesn't really sound like he cares about what's being discussed. It sounds to me, and in my opinion, seems to be definitive proof that there is a concerted effort going around. That Jimmy Dore is problematic to the establishment. And at first, he didn't. You remember? I talk about this all the time. I was on the phone with Jimmy a week ago, maybe a week ago, and we were discussing like how he grew and how it's inspired a lot of other journalists as well, because a lot of people didn't know who Jimmy was. They just remember him as being the old guy that yelled on TYT and the one that spit in Alex Jones' face. His platform was nowhere near as big. His platform, I think, almost quadrupled. Do you know why it quadrupled? Because when everybody else was lying, Jimmy could have left. It would have been easier, actually. He could have said, you know, I'm not doing this. I'm not even going to engage with them. What he did instead was he used his platform. He used the Young Turks platform. And he called them out on their own platform, became a superstar for it, continues to do so, and didn't even have to leave. And now he is so popular, the Young Turks can't do a damn thing about it because they're hurting for money. Technically, Jimmy Dore's channel belongs to TYT. Technically, if you look at the link, it even says, if you go to his YouTube channel, one of the links says TYT Comedy. Bruh. If you really look at this, you have the Sam Cedar attacks. You have Ben Dixon going on Sam Cedar's show. And Ben Dixon, I'm telling you this because I'm telling you what I know, peeps. I'm telling you from what I know. Primary source information. Ben Dixon said that he wants to be part of the establishment. He wants that money. This is a man that he changed out of his clothes, like in the car, to get dressed up because he thought somebody, like an establishment person in Philly, would see him and potentially want to give him a job. That's the type of dude Ben Dixon is. He'll say whatever he has to get dollars. The problem is he's fucking boring, so nobody would give him any money, because what's the use of stereotyping a black guy to trash white people if he's not charismatic? Because that's one of the stereotypes that matter. But the Sam Cedar attack, Ben Dixon goes on Sam Cedar's show. Then Dave Pacman has a random person calling in to go at Jimmy Dore because of a conversation on his show that was discussed on Sam Cedar and Ben Dixon's show, which of course everybody was encouraged to go look at. On Twitter, we've seen it. Look, there was even something yesterday where Shane literally said the Young Turks should fire Jimmy Dore. Jimmy issued an apology for you. I want to be very clear about something. I do believe that men absolutely should be careful when they are having conversations with women, like public figures mostly, in this scenario, because when we speak a certain way towards women, other people who think that's okay because they're women may begin to do the same and think that it's fine. But you have to understand the context surrounding that situation, because Jimmy talks to everybody that way. Jimmy talks to the people who pay him that. Do you understand how real that guy is? Do you understand how real Jimmy is? Jimmy talks about the people who pay his bills that way. So you thought that Francesca was going to be an exception to that because she's a woman? No. So the fact that she's a woman getting mentioned a lot is stupid to me. Jimmy loves Bernie Sanders. Guess what he said about him? He said some stuff. I'm a fucking liar, actually. And he loves Bernie. But when he says he's unapologetically progressive, that is not a lie. He is unapologetically progressive. He's unapologetically objective. And that is the quality. That's the quality that we love about him. Why is it that when Jimmy Dore issues an apology, somebody like Shane Bauer decides to ask for him to be fired? What does that gain for you? Well, I'll tell you what it gains. I don't know about the establishment, yeah, but let's talk about Shane Bauer and how the fact that he has a book coming out. I guess he's planning on doing a meet and greet. He has 75,000 subscribers or followers. It got 6 likes for his announced meet and greet yesterday. He has 75,000 followers. He writes as a senior reporter for Mother Jones. Nobody knows who Shane Bauer is. And it's really upsetting. It really is. For people like Shane Bauer, the only reason he has 75,000 followers is because he works for Mother Jones. Francesca Fioretini, only reason that people know who you are is because of Al Jazeera, the platform. The only reason people know who Anna Kasparian is because of TYT, the platform. The platforms made you. Only reason people know who Sam Cedar is because of MSNBC. The only reason that people know who Ben Dixon is, which most people don't, but the ones who do, they know him because he's always whining about other progressives on other people's platforms. You start to see it looks to me, once again, as we discussed on the last video I did about Jimmy, it looks to me like a little bit of jealousy, just a hint that somebody could come out of the woodworks and tell the truth. And then when here's what happens. He told the truth. He became more popular. And instead of the left and the right rejecting him, because usually that's how the duopoly works according to everybody, right? The duopoly means if you say something about the left, the right pushes you out the window. If you say something that may be considered conservative, the left pushes you out the window. But instead, at a time where Joe Rogan was considered mildly conservative, Jimmy was brought on to Joe Rogan's show and was celebrated by the right for his honesty, with comments like, I don't agree with him on some of the policy issues, but you can't disagree with his honesty and his logic. Instead, you have progressive politician after progressive politician after progressive politician, including once upon a time, Bernie Sanders, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Most recently, Tulsi Gabbard, progressive politicians that go on his show. But why not? Jimmy won't pick a side. So why are people flocking towards Jimmy? Oh my God, can you believe it? People are tired of the duopolis bullshit. Believe it or not, people probably are at this point just yearning for the truth. The difference between you all and a person like Jimmy Dore, or even myself, or even Tim Canova, because I consider him a voice, especially as active as he is on Twitter and his electoral justice work on the ground. People like Tim Black. We didn't get made by a network. And although Jimmy started off on TYT, the network didn't make TYT. Or excuse me, the network didn't make Jimmy Dore. In fact, ironically enough, it ended up being that Jimmy Dore is keeping TYT alive. Any credibility that they have maintained has been because they haven't fired Jimmy. So they still are maintaining the illusion that they entertain multiple voices, even voices of dissent on their network. But notice they made a lot of cutbacks. A lot of progressive voices got taken down from TYT recently. And despite Jimmy Dore being the most notable voice, the most notable actual progressive voice on TYT, notice where that show went. Didn't go anywhere, actually. And there's a reason for that. Jimmy Dore is an important figure, not because of his name, but because of what he represents, which is a new wave of popularity not coming through selling out. Awareness not growing through taking funding from the Koch brothers or George Soros. Through growth that isn't facilitated by a Turning Point USA, Center for American Progress. It came because of nothing more and nothing less than one really short man who had some pretty funny jokes and a lot of passion, who was willing to tell the truth in an era, mind you, that we thought, that not me, but many thought the truth had to be left or right. That the truth had to be Democrat or Republican. That the truth could be anything more than just what it is. The truth, irrespective of what side you lean. And if you pay attention, Jimmy also evolved himself. He didn't just stagnate. He continued to educate himself. He continued to grow. He continued to have more voices on. He continued to expand. He went to Europe to cover to cover all the lies that we were being told about the humanitarian efforts that are going on across the world. He still does his live shows. He gives back to the people. The people give back to him. He's at events. I've seen him there, obviously. I'm there too. He's an activist, not just somebody pontificating from behind a desk. Not just some self-righteous Dave Pacman or Sam Cedar. He did not become a journalist because it paid well. In fact, he probably took a pay cut at first. But what he did do was say, you know what? I think that this is where I need to be at. The same way that I did. The same way that Lee Camp, who good guy. If y'all knew Lee Camp's story, he gave up a lot to tell the truth. There's always said to be this intellect behind, and obviously there's a level of wit, but a level of intellectual a level of intellect behind comedians, because to be that witty, to understand how people would feel, to gauge their reactions before you can even gauge them, it's like, wow. When you look at it now, it seems that the most prominent voices in our community at this point are comedians, are funny people who we laugh because it sucks, and it's like, it's funny. It's only funny in a very awkward way because nobody will do anything about it. And so finally, it took comedians to step it up. And now, because of their just pure entertainment value and their willingness to tell the truth when no one else will, you have a Jimmy Dore. That's all right. The Natural Progressive, appreciate it. Thank you for the super chat. So thank you, Niko. Gas money I saved today for you. JD rocks. Hey, I appreciate that. I got to go to work today later, too, so I'm going to need that $5. So thank you all so much. I appreciate all the love. I appreciate you stopping by. Once again, if you live in LA, make sure that you stop by the Bernie Sanders Coffee Shop on October the 13th to come to my meet and greet. We'll be discussing, obviously, politics, but also what I am doing in the future as far as trying to, combine the media side and the activism side together so we can move forward finally and prepare for 2020 and obviously in 2018 or 2019 also. Fiorella Isabella and Craig Pasta Jardula of the Convo Couch will be there also. We'll be taking questions from the audience, and of course we want you to tell us your stories so we can amplify your messages and your efforts. And plus, it's always cool to just hang out with people who feel the same, because it seems like sometimes that we're in little pockets around the country, but to be totally fair, we're not. We are more prominent in this country than you would think, and it's coming from somebody who obviously has a little bit of a platform and talks to people daily, both on the internet and outside of it. So make sure you, if you can, 8 p.m. Pacific, October the 13th, meet and greet. I'll be there because it is my meet and greet. Los Angeles, California. I hope y'all know how to party. Also, make sure y'all find us on Roku and subscribe to the very first independent news network to appear on Roku. And join us on JustNForm.com as well. Be part of a social media website where all voices are welcomed. But more than anything else, always remember, find your balance. Peace.